Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock. Let's go over what is happening in the market. Pretty unbelievable day in the market today. Things were going really well for the first half of the day, and then the second half of the day, JPOW, of course, we had the rate cut, we had the JPOW, pretty much Q&A, if you will. And the market has absolutely just tanked ever since. I mean, you have QQQ down almost 4%, SPY down almost 3%, extremely large red candles across the board on Tesla, NVIDIA, AMD, pretty much everything across the board. Just very big red candles. So yeah, the market clearly wasn't very happy with that. So let's see how it plays out tomorrow. Sometimes these moves can be a bit of an overreaction, but we'll see. I mean, this one is definitely a hard one to tell, that's for sure. But as per usual, let's go over it regardless. If you enjoy, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. And of course, if you do enjoy my analysis, I do share my thoughts on my membership section down below. Every single day, the market is open for just $3 a month, mainly on Tesla, sometimes other stocks, or for $5, access to all of that plus other, $5, you get access to all that plus NVIDIA thoughts every day as well. But jumping into a Tesla closing the day down 8.5% almost, closing at $440 per share, but unfortunately down another almost 3% post-market right now, back down to about that $428 per share. Now, this is the pretty important level, right? Now, Tesla's definitely, this is no question, is going to start losing steam. Now, we may get some bounces and whatnot, but this 1 hour green band, the top one at least, and eventually probably the bottom one as well, but the top one for sure at this point, most likely, unless we get a substantial bounce tomorrow, is going to start flipping red. This is the first time it'll flip red ever since it crossed green pretty much all the way back here at about $340 per share. So that's something to note for. What does this actually mean though moving forward, right? Obviously, it's not a good sign. Obviously, that tells me that the bearish momentum is fading. And like I said, if Tesla loses about $460 per share, that to me is really starting to show some cracks in this kind of bullish momentum, if that makes sense. And that's exactly what's happening. We lost that and we plummeted straight down. Now, we did initially get the bounce intraday after that massive JPOW sell-off, pretty much right at that 427-ish region I've been talking about, 425 to 430. We did get a bit of a bounce, but unfortunately post-market we're pretty much right back down to that level. And this is a pretty important level to hold, I'll be honest. This is, if there's a level to hold while still maintaining at least some level of bullishness, really, this probably is around that general level, right? Why? Because you can see back here, it was a massive area of resistance. And then once we finally broke it, turned into support, we had that massive continuation. So there is, in my opinion, a chance that what happens is the fact that we do hold this area and we actually potentially get one more bounce back up to about 460 before obviously now officially making what could be that first lower high. Kind of like what NVIDIA did, I guess. I'm trying to remember if NVIDIA did it like this or not. Let me take a double check. Now, I did a lower low first. So not almost the same, but pretty similar in a sense where, it will potentially be setting a lower high because that now I would expect 460 to be resistance, most likely reject and most likely make its way back down once again, right? That's kind of what I would roughly expect. And this is like, I would even argue the slightly best case scenario for bulls in my opinion, because I do think the momentum has faded, right? I do think the short-term momentum has faded and we begin a small mini correction from here on Tesla, which again, best case scenario, we get a bounce to 460, most likely get rejected and continue our way down even further. That's most likely the outcome right here, right now. Obviously, no one knows for sure. It's a pretty massive overreaction. I don't want to say overreaction, but reaction for sure nonetheless from the market today. So, we'll need to see how it digests these things moving into tomorrow as well, because at this point, honestly, who the hell knows really? But, just looking strictly from, the levels really, that's kind of the way I'm looking at it, right? And the level below that, like I said, is 415. And I also mentioned how if we lose 415, that's where I really start questioning this bullish thesis, at least short term, right? And if we lose 415, that previous all-time highs, that's when I honestly wouldn't be surprised if at the very least we come down to 400, which will most likely be the bottom of the band, which is the 21 EMA, somewhere around 400. But ultimately, that still shows me weakness, and just losing the all-time highs and especially closing dailies below that previous all-time highs at 415, it's not a look that I'd want to be seeing. And what I would expect is a move ultimately back down to probably about 360 at least, honestly, right? So let's see how it plays out. Let's see how the market digests this, right? Again, today was a pretty emotional day in the markets to say the least, right? So we need to see how the market ends up actually fully digesting this moving into really the rest of the week, to be completely honest with you, because things can get oversold, overbought, too scared, whatever, right? And sometimes the real true movement, if you will, post FOMC is the day after, whether the FOMC day like today for instance was a rally and then the next day it sells off pretty massively. I've seen that happen many times, or the exact opposite. So we need to see how it reacts tomorrow. That's for sure. But this is probably my main projection, right? Again, best case scenario, I see moving like this, and then we can potentially move to 400, and this is like the best case scenario, and this is all we get, and then we continue back up. Or we don't really get much of a reaction. We ended up just falling straight back down to this vicinity, come back up a little bit, and then ultimately make our way back down somewhere around here. Those are the rough two scenarios I have right now that can play out for Tesla. Both of them obviously ultimately lead lower than where we are right now. It's just, do we get that short-term bounce and then the low is set a little bit higher, or do we not really get that short-term bounce, pretty much just continue bleeding, moving forward really into like tomorrow and the rest of the week and early next week even, and ultimately arrive to the destination somewhere around that 360-ish region. That's kind of the main thing I'm going to be eyeballing moving forward on Tesla stock and how it decides to react, right? It's, again, very difficult here. We're in very turbulent times. The weekly is looking obviously not very good right here. So, you definitely want to watch out for this weekly candle. We'll see how it closes by Friday. But again, I'll try to make this really clear, and I'll say this before and I'll say this again. The weekly is really overextended, right? We are extremely overbought. Again, every time I go back in the past, whenever the weekly has been not even this level overbought, it's been, relatively close to some form of top before a correction, right? The last time it was this overbought were these times back here. Let's take a look at them. Let's go ahead and, take a look at like this, right? And no one ever believes me when I say this until it actually starts happening, right? But, again, so overbought that it pretty much surpassed the bands. We got a correction. Same thing here. Obviously, some consolidation sideways for the weeks to come, but nonetheless a correction downwards. Same here and same here, right? Small little corrections to the downside, or the very least sideways action, but most likely sideways / down. So, again, when you see the bands showing the weeklies this elevated, this overbought, this overextended, stochastic is all the way up there, RSI is all the way up there, MACD is all the way up there. You're like, yes, there is that bullish momentum. Yes, there is obviously a lot of, bullishness, if you will, short term. Of course there is, right? Naturally. But, again, when you get a stock price movement like this, I'm surprised it's only down 8%, to be completely honest with you. I thought Tesla would tank even more than this. Because again, when you get a massive move up like this, all it can take sometimes is 1 or 2 days and it can wipe out the majority of those gains, right? Like I said before, back, in all-time highs all the way over here. Look what happened, right? We kept pushing up for all-time highs and probably everyone just started buying here and thinking like, we're only going higher, clearly. And then ultimately, we pretty much crashed like 20% in just a few days. So that's just the things you want to watch out for, right? That's the kind of situations that you want to try to avoid ideally. Obviously, no one's perfect, of course. I took some L's today for sure. No doubt about that on other positions. I did get caught off guard myself, but, not to the point where I'm taking, a 10% L, right? That's a pretty big L to take in a single day. So you want to be careful with these kind of situations, right? So anyway, that's probably the main way I'm looking at Tesla right now, right? I think the short-term momentum is most likely done. I don't think we're going higher than pretty much the high that we set here. At least for now, before like a more slightly deeper correction at least occurs back to at least 415. But ultimately, I still want to see 360. That's probably my main target I'm looking for this, potential correction, something like that, right? So let's see how it plays out. But again, we need to see how the market digests this movement, if you will, tomorrow and the rest of the week to really get a better indication of what's to come. Because again, very emotional day in the market, very, potential overreaction. So let's see. In terms of options flow, let's take a quick look over here at options flow. Let's see how it's actually overall playing out. Some bulls are stepping in towards the end of the day here. You can see, pretty much as the market closed, a 1.4 million call came in for January 17th, 2025. So some bulls are trying to catch this, knife, if you will, on the day. Maybe they're expecting that little push up, like I mentioned, to 460. It is a possibility, of course. But again, I don't think we'll go higher than that. And I do think that will be a major resistance, a major rejection, and most likely a major move back down. So yeah, that's just the way I'm looking at it right now. Of course, let's see though. Let's see. It's hard to make a full judgment here, but again, everything is extremely overbought. The RSI finally made its way back down, but again, my RSI is much more aggressive, right? Stochastic, for instance, is still extremely overbought with an actual bearish crossover today in extremely overbought territory. So let's just see how it plays out. Let's see how the market digests this, over the next day or two. And let's kind of go from there. So yeah, thanks for watching. And as usual, I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.